Welcome back, everybody. We are the Alter Ego Brothers. I'm Nick, that's Andy, and today we're talking about Undertone. And I know for all of you worried out there about where's our review for The Bride last week, well, it's gone. Okay? The footage is corrupted. You're never going to see it, but I can give you a quick rundown. I gave it a 5 out of 10. Andy gave it an 8 out of 10, which gave us a 6.5 out of 10, which is the exact same score the audiences gave it. There you go. Quick and dirty. It's on the tier list. You'll see it later. Also, fun fact, tonight is the Oscars, and I am so confident that I'm going to pre-congratulate Sinners for sweeping every category it was nominated in, except for Best Original Song, which is going to go to Golden, because K-Pop Demon Hunters is basically the Frozen of the 2020s. Okay, moving on to Undertone. There's been a lot of marketing on the internet about this movie, and does it actually live up to the hype? I, for one, think it does. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I think that this movie really showcases the power of Dolby Cinema, and just, you have to see it. It was like being on a theme park ride, but in the theater. It really elevated the experience, and I have a lot of great things to say about this movie. This is the part where you agree.
I'm a 3 out of 10.
Oh my God.
I really thought that this was the audio version of 2025's Presence.
Oh, no way. Oh.
Sorry I have to do it to you, buddy, but I'll die on this hill.
All right, combine those scores, and that gives us a 6 out of 10. Put it up on the tier list. So starting off, this is a very audio heavy movie, and we will get to that part, but first I want to talk about the story. You start off and you follow Evie, who is a podcaster, and what her job entails is that she listens to ghost stories, people's tales, and plays the character of like the debunker. And so her job is to make sure that, you know, everybody looks at these stories with a grain of salt. Her counterpart is the one who's like all in on the ghost stories and is like, can you believe that this is real? And they get sent a 10 message long audio file, and things go from really strange to completely bonkers while listening to these files. I thought it was a fresh take. I really liked the aspect of watching them go through this podcast and anticipating that next part, because you know they're going to play all 10 parts, and listening to it and being really engaged throughout the entire movie. For me, it was an experience where I really leaned in and had to pay attention and had to focus on what was going on. Once you start catching all these little things, you start wondering, I heard that. I heard that in the background. What am I going to hear next? And it was just kind of fun little treasure trail of audio for me.
So to me, I think my biggest gripe that I have is the audio files that they listen to. There's so many times where it's the classic, okay, listen to this bit. Did you hear that? Did you hear the words it said? Listen to it backwards, whatever it is. And it can be, the thing is that if you hear like Mary had a little lamb, and then you hear it backwards and it's like, oh, it's saying these specific words now if you listen to it backwards. No, it's not. Because if you spell out Mary had a little lamb backwards, it would spell those words, would it not? You wouldn't just hear completely different words. I don't get that concept. And there's so many times too when you listen to the audio and they're like writing down notes or something to kind of hint towards you to get you to think like this is what it's saying. They need to do that to help you, because you as an audience have no idea what the fuck you're hearing. You're just hearing some gibberish being said. So they have to tell you what it's saying all the time, and it's not really good storytelling. It's all just a bunch of bullshit is all it is. Apart from that, I really thought that they could have really dove deeper into maybe more of the 3D effect within the audio, and we'll kind of dive into that a little bit more, because that's where a lot of the story was coming from. It's like this entity within that's surrounding us, but we have no idea where it's at, but it's becoming more and more present over time. I don't know, we get a couple times when Evie just goes Fucking solid acting, by the way. That's another thing I'll get into. It's just I didn't feel the terror from anyone at all. Evie is the only one who can really even portray that. And I just didn't even feel any sort of terror. And all I saw was her doing her podcast in the middle of the night and then running up to check on her mom occasionally. And that's all the movie was. And I don't know. I wasn't a fan of it.
So I think part of what you're talking about and what you're experiencing is that it's not really a horror movie. It's very much a suspenseful movie, and it's very much kind of a creepy movie, but it's not a scary movie. I wouldn't call it a scary movie. But what I think it really excels at in those parts of the audio, which, by the way, I also had a hard time understanding like the backwards stuff, but I get the concept and I get other people do hear those things and like they project that imagination of what they're hearing onto what they're listening to. And it really toys with your mind. For me personally, I don't get any of that. I couldn't tell what they were saying, but it did not detract from the experience at all for me.
I will clarify. So I guess if I use the word scary, when I say scary, I kind of encompass all things horror. But from the suspense standpoint, what I was alluding to is I just didn't feel the suspense. And there's only really one character that can help you feel that suspense. And I didn't think her acting did a good job of that.
Well, let's just go ahead and get into that. I will agree with you. Okay. I did think that Nini Kiri, great name, by the way, who played Evie.
Yes.
Nini Kiri played Evie in the movie. They needed a stronger actor to help carry this movie. There is only one real actor, and you got to give props to the grandma for doing a better job at like dying in her bed.
Thank you. I literally, that's my note. The mom is the star of the fucking show.
Yeah. So they did lose points with me on acting as well. There were a lot of times where what you're seeing in the portrayal doesn't match the emotion of what's going on around here. There's an entire monologue at the end that Evie has, and she's deadpan the entire time. Like she's supposed to be crying and like upset, and like you get the emotion that's what is trying to be put out there, but there's just nothing here. I concede on that point for sure.
The voice acting I thought was shit too. This also alludes to some of the audio issues that I had with this movie, but the voice acting I thought from Justin was just very bland and monotone. And even like when they got fucking crazy at the end, I didn't really feel like he was getting, if that shit was really happening in real life and he was really freaking out, it just sounded like fake crying to me. And then the audio clips that they listened to, the two couple there, the way they interact with each other just felt so like I'm reading a piece of paper in the studio right now kind of form. And none of it felt believable. It just all felt gimmicky and like they're just doing a play on a high school musical right now.
I don't necessarily agree on those points. I think the end could be interpreted as not being real, and I don't know if it was. As far as the other actors, I think they did a fine job for what they had. I mean, it's just a speaking role. It's not supposed to be, and it's like periodic throughout the movie. It's not something that once you total it up, it's like maybe 5 or 6 minutes in the movie.
I paid attention to the camera stuff. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I do actually. This movie easily could have just been a podcast horror story and audio only. However, the cinematography really did elevate the entire thing. There were a lot of very tight angles, very uneasy movements, not only vertically, but horizontally. And it does a great job with fucking with your head. I am notoriously very good with maps. Andy can agree with me on this. I had no clue what the layout of this fucking house was at times, but I know it was the same place. Like there were times where you'd see this shot, it would make sense in your head, and then they would pan over, and all of a sudden we were looking in a mirror the entire time, and we're like, what the fuck just happened? What is going on, dude? And I really enjoyed all of that. And especially when shit started going batty and we started seeing the tilt increase more and more throughout the movie as weird stuff is going on. I thought it was a great piece of storytelling in the visual medium as well. Even though this is a very audio heavy movie, they really did a good job of elevating the visual aspect.
Yeah, I thought the cinematography did a fantastic job. It's like I'm a sucker for good cinematography because I genuinely believe you can tell the story within just the camera work itself, and they did that here. And there were even some moments when you talk about the panning moments. There were a couple times they panned alongside with the audio clips that they were listening to, and if you use your imagination, you can actually imagine the dad running down the stairs and then running into the kitchen to the incident that happened in there. I thought that was so clever because they didn't really like shove it in your face, but if you notice that those two happened to line up, you can actually imagine it. So they did a really good job of getting the audience to just imagine the movie, which is also, it's cool, but also like probably the most budget-friendly way to ever do a movie ever. I'm like, God damn, they didn't do anything.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's not. I did it for them in my head. I thought that's fantastic and really clever. So I liked that. And at the beginning, I noticed there were just a shit ton of mirrors. So many mirrors. I'm like, oh my God. It's going to be one of those classic movies where the actor's here and you see a mirror over here and all of a sudden the thing appears in the mirror all of a sudden, but the actor doesn't notice. There kind of was a couple of moments like that. But then I realized that the mirrors were actually symbolism for the playing the audio forward and backwards. It's also visually forward and backwards. So I'm like, this whole thing is a perfect ballet here. And I did enjoy that part. That part was really cool and completely thought out.
And now we'll get into the audio part, which you'll also love and think is great because with those visual cues, you have great audio cues. Like you were talking about imagining the dad coming up and down the staircase. I sit in the same spot every week. I have my spot in the Dolby Theater. That's my spot. That's the spot I'm used to. And I was able to hear everything. If it sounded like the dad was coming down the stairs, you hear that noise start up here and come down past your ear level there. You hear voices and whispers off in the corner. You hear some things that are distorted. You hear some things that are ultra clear. That's why this is an experience. It's not a traditional movie. And if you're not going to see it, then there's no point in trying to watch it afterwards. It is a Dolby experience. I sit in the same spot every week. This is something you have to see in theaters to get the full effect. It's not going to be the same outside of it.
I thought the trailer did a cooler job with the audio effects than the movie did, except for the ending part. I know what you're talking about, where you hear all the voices all around you. I'm like, this is what I've been wanting the whole movie. What, like the trailer, when you listen to the trailer, especially in theaters, it cuts to black at the end of the trailer, but then all of a sudden you hear a whisper over to the side that's supposed to be creepy. I'm like, oh, that's going to be really cool when they do more of these effects within this movie. And they just didn't. And I don't know why. Though. It's like, but they had so sure, you can hear him coming down the stairs or whatever. Sure. There were moments where you hear a click over there and that's when Evie goes, dear God, it's beautiful. With her 10 out of 10
There's
acting.
whispers throughout the movie that aren't there. There's the clock. There's the whole headphone piece of things where you hear things around you.
And I wanted it to be more immersive and spooky than it was.
So,
and there was never a point where
it didn't meet your expectations.
No, because the expectations were set based on what they did in the trailer, and they never did that. They never had a moment where it just like made you go, "Oh shit, like you're over there."
Yes, they did throughout the entire movie.
Not for me. I thought no, not at all. I mean, they're there, not at all. But they weren't there in the way that I wanted them to be based on what I heard in the trailer. But apart from that, there's also like the unbalanced audio issues. I really had a big issue with like the Evie's voice talking and even Justin's too, and their levels. And then they go play the audio clip and it's the loudest fucking thing. And granted, I will like consider that maybe my theater did not properly balance their speakers for this movie. I'm not sure. That is a possibility. But holy shit, was it loud as fuck when you just hear as loud as shit. And then there's a moment where she's like, crank it up. I need to hear this better. I'm like, please, God, do not crank that up. And she cranks it up and it didn't actually even get any louder. So I'm like, well, come on, at least make it louder. But it was already loud enough. If you didn't experience that, maybe it was my theater thing. But goddamn, was there two completely different loudnesses. And fucking
Yeah, I did
got
not
so annoying
experience
listening to for fucking 10 minutes. I'm like,
every
Jesus
time you do
Christ,
that,
man.
you cut out. So there's nothing there. You're like, it's loud as fuck if it's.
That's hilarious. That's a good mic. But speaking of mics, that was the other thing. When people call on the phone, they didn't sound like they're calling over the phone. They sounded like they're talking into a studio mic in a studio. I hated that too.
Because it was a demon the whole time.
Just make it sound like they're
real.
on the phone.
It wasn't real.
Oh, but so
it was a demon.
In the studio?
Yeah, sure. Why wouldn't it be? It's a demon.
Just be on the phone if you're going to be on the phone. I don't know. I was just disappointed, man.
I think your theater was fucked.
That's literally a total possibility.
All right. Well, that's our takes. So what does the internet have to say? So as far as audience members go, there's not a whole lot of reviews for this, but overall it's a 5.5 out of 10. And on the critic side, it's quite a bit higher at a 7.5 out of 10. So we land right in the middle there, as usual.
It worked out.
As usual. It works out.
We hate each other, but it's for the good of the audience.
For the channel. We're right in the middle. Okay, we're going to take a look at a high score and a low score today because Andy and I are so divided, and it seems like critics and audiences are as well. So as far as a low score goes, here we have a 1 out of 10 that says, warning, do not watch in theaters. This movie is absolutely garbage. This film promised horror and delivered boredom. Characters wandered aimlessly while plot forgot to show up, not even a single memorable scare. It's like they filmed a nap. I kept waiting for anything to happen, and yet the credits rolled and the only thing haunted was my patience. If you enjoy sitting through nothing, this is your masterpiece. Undertone is a painfully slow crawl to nowhere. Zero payoff, zero tension, and 2 hours of my life I want back. Avoid. That's my thumbs down, wrapped in a MFing bow.
I disagree. Just kidding. So I do think you should go to a theater. I disagree with that much. Did he say it's like they were recording an app? Because that might be the best way to sum up this video for me. Because 50% of the time you're just watching somebody sleep there. So and the other 40%, it's you imagining the movie, and the other 10% is Evie going. That's the movie right there.
She did that maybe twice. Maybe twice. Like I did catch that.
What's going on
but it was
there?
not constant, okay? Okay, so let's look at a 10 out of 10 score next. Unique experience for horror fans with an attention span. As a middle-aged horror fan who appreciates engrossing myself in the films that I watch, I found this to be quite the incredible experience. I watched the last show on opening night alone in my small local theater, and the creeps were very real. I haven't felt this unsettled since back in high school when I watched The Ring in 2002. Very cleverly shot, and of course, remarkably well done audio, and true suspense that lasts. It's not overdone with constant jump scares, gore, or visual overload. I do think that makes a good point about jump scares and gore. This is not something that is very typical of a horror movie. It is all up here and could be considered a psychological horror. I still have a tough time putting a horror stamp completely on this movie, but everything else I really do agree with. I think it was suspense, and if you're willing to go in with an open mind and let yourself be enveloped by the movie, you're gonna have a good time. Well, that's about it for this review. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. It really does help us out. YouTube loves us a lot much more when you decide to comment, so please do so. And remember, we're just two regular dudes
doing regular reviews.
I don't know, man.